I'm AJ Alvarez. I am representing Howell Donaldson Jr. with Ralph Fernandez, and this is Edgar Guzman.
Attorney Edgar Guzman. I'm representing Ms. Rosita Donaldson.
Can you spell your last name?
Guzman.
And Alvarez is spelled?
Alvarez.
You two are representing the father and the mother?
Correct.
Yes.
Same law firm?
No.
Separate law firm. Guzman Law is representing Rosita, and AJ Alvarez is representing Mr. Howell Donaldson.
So you heard the state attorney announce their decision to seek the death penalty. What are your clients' feelings?
We did. Upon hearing the decision, I had an opportunity to speak with Mr. Donaldson, and as all can imagine, he was deeply saddened by the decision. It was obvious to him that that was a difficult decision by Mr. Warren. He is thankful for all of the thought and consideration which he put into it. He remains hopeful that at some point during the course of the litigation process that he may reconsider that position. He also remains optimistic that the defense will be successful in defending his son, and he maintains that his son is innocent until proven guilty.
Do you think if they had spoken to Mr. Warren that they might have been able to mitigate this decision?
I don't think so, but whether or not they're going to speak with Mr. Warren is something that we'll address on Friday, as the matter is set for a hearing in front of Judge Wolf on Friday, and we'll know more about that at that time.
Can you tell us more about that hearing? What's going to happen, or what do you anticipate?
Well, it's set for a status conference right now, so I don't know exactly. Mr. Warren did bring out today that he is hopeful of some sort of agreement that can be reached. So obviously we'd like to hear any suggestions. But at this point, it's just set for a status. It is not set for any contempt proceedings.
What would satisfy either of you and your clients when it comes to cooperating or coming up with a compromise with the state attorney's office in regards to them speaking with him and answering questions?
That's something we'll discuss possibly after Friday, but at this time we're not going to get into that.
How disappointed are you, and if you could just, and both of you, we'll get both of you, but either one first, how disappointed are you by the overall decision to seek the death penalty in this case?
Well, Rosita understands. She's devastated, and she continues to maintain the position of her condolences towards the families and the victims throughout this process. Again, she's always expressed that they're hopeful that they can arrive to some agreement. And obviously she understands Attorney Warren's position and what he had to do, and respects the process and what the determination that the office had to make. But again, she's hopeful that the Public Defender's Office will continue to handle the matters as they are, and that her son is innocent until proven guilty.
Same question. How disappointed?
And between the two.
Sure.
How disappointed? This could have gone two different ways, and it could have still been pursued as a murder case. I mean, so how disappointing is it that they would actually go ahead and seek the death penalty?
It's very disappointing. Again, this is very early in the process. As Mr. Warren indicated, these cases go on for years, so it's not the end. Unfortunately, we are starting off at that position, but it's just very, very upsetting to the family to know that this is certainly on the table at this point.
Obviously, the state is just protecting their position. They only have 45 days to come up with this decision.
Correct.
What factor do you think or hope could come into play eventually that might at least keep this from being a death penalty case?
Well, that's something that obviously the process has to undergo, and we're not in a position to respond to that. But obviously, the family's hopeful that could happen, that could be taken off the table.
Are there mitigating factors that you're able to discuss with us?
Not at this time. I'll defer to Ms. Holt and her very qualified team to answer any of those questions.
Have either of your clients been in contact with their son, and how is he doing?
I'm not going to answer any of those questions at this time.
Yeah, we're not in a position to answer that.
What is your role with, now that this is a death penalty case, what is your role? What are your roles?
Well, once again, the Public Defender's Office is handling this matter. They're more than qualified. Our position is to represent the family in the civil contempt matter that's ongoing right now. And like I said, on Friday we'll know more. And we're hopeful again, the family's hopeful that it could be resolved by that time.
Do you have a position whether the cases should be severed or not?
Well, I'm not going to touch upon Ms. Holt's motion to sever. I can tell you that it's our position that it is at this time, it's a civil contempt proceeding in regards to our client, Mr. Donaldson. And so, I don't know why it's, other than the administrative order, I don't know why it's in front of a felony court.
You have no objection then?
I'll defer to Mr. Fernandez and what we say on Friday in that regard.
Last time I spoke with Mr. Fernandez, there was only one attorney for both parents. Is there a reason why there's two?
No, all along Mr. Guzman has been representing Rosita, and myself and Mr. Fernandez have been representing Mr. Donaldson.
They touched on in the press conference earlier today the possibility of getting a fair trial. Do you think Mr. Donaldson can get a fair trial in this county?
I'm going to defer to Ms. Holt and her team in that regard.
Can you say anything about any negotiations you've had so far with the state attorney's office regarding the civil contempt?
No, at this point we can't discuss that.
Have there been talks?
I'm not going to get into that today. We'll have more on Friday for you guys.
And the state attorney also said that he sees no mental illness in Mr. Donaldson. That too, I mean, obviously there are court procedures that address that as well. But
Again, that'll be something I'm sure the defense will take up at a later date. Any other questions?
Are you confident that the civil contempt matter will be resolved short of sanctions?
I am confident of that, yes.
Is it, for us to hear this, it seems like there's a good relationship there. It seems like you guys want to cooperate. You've mentioned that, almost understanding where the state attorney's coming from, and he did the same back in your direction. I mean, to me, I haven't really seen that before. I mean, do you guys have a good working relationship in this case? Is it important to work together with the state?
Well, I believe your assessment is accurate. Obviously, the Donaldsons are in a very difficult position, which the state attorney's office recognizes. And so it's, obviously, he'd like to reach a resolution, and so would we. But at this point, they're just in a very, very difficult spot, especially now with the decision that was made today.
But you're not digging your heels in the ground and saying,
Well, there's a legal process which has to take its course either way, even if there's not an agreement reached. And so we trust in that process.